Kind of catchy, isn't it? This is what I believe. It'll wake you up in the middle of the night. But it's better than some of the things I can think about in the middle of the night. I can think about my beliefs. One of the reasons this is one of my very favorite songs is because it's really restating Unity's first principle. We say that as a statement of faith statement of being every single Sunday morning here. There is only one presence and one power active in the universe and in our lives. God, the good, omnipotence. Unity's first principle is that God is everywhere present and good. So whatever I'm going through, be it something very joyful or be it something I'm like trying to skitter out of, I don't really want to feel it, if I'm willing to look for the good is there. Now, it may not feel happy to me initially. I might have to go through that process of grief. But if I'm willing to look for the good, I will find it. That's the promise, is that God is present with us and that we will find the good when we're willing to look for it. Now, we are spiritual beings that are having a human experience. Anybody ever try to get out the human part of it? Like, oops, I don't really want to be the human part of it. Part of that humanness is learning how to live fully human and let the spiritual part of us also shine through. How do I learn how to actually experience good grief as a human being and as a spiritual being? Part of that humanness is change. That's one thing that we can count on in our lives, is that our lives will change. And then part of change often is loss. And part of loss is that process of grief that many of us go through. Loss takes on a few different forms. One is an abstract form. It's that loss of an idea, that loss of a dream, the loss of a belief system. In the more tangible sense, loss may be the loss of a person, of an animal. It may be the loss of an object. It may be a move. It may be a shift in jobs. It can be many things. And each of us are unique in our experience and expression of loss. It's a unique to us thing. What I want to hear when I'm in that flow of loss in my life may and probably is going to be different than what you want to hear. So part of our journey together is to, wiggle around and find out what helps us to support and love on each other in the midst of that. When I was in my early 20s, I was living in New York City. I wanted a cat, so I went to the shelter and I found this really cool guy. I named him T-Cat. He went through my master's degree, my doctoral degree, my year-long internship, and my very first job as a psychologist with me. He went through that very first year. He started out in New York City. He lived in Mississippi with me. We moved to California. He did great in those moves. I was the one that had the hard time. He was in the flow of life. I was the one with the brakes on. When he died, this was before a lot of bereavement for pet groups. When he died, I was sad. I cried, and friends of mine would say, "What are you crying for? It's just a cat. You can always get a cat. It's just a cat." But that wasn't true. What they didn't know was my history with that cat. I have lived, and this is still true today, feels a little silly to tell you this, but this is still true. I actually have lived longer with that cat. I had lived longer as an adult with that cat than I did with any other human being. He was a long-term companion of mine. He was my friend. When I was writing my master's thesis and when I was writing my doctoral dissertation, that cat sat right here on my shoulders, and he supported me. And when I put him in my doctoral dissertation gratitude list, my mother was like, "It's a cat." But he was important to me. He was important to me because he had been my companion. He had been my friend. So whatever grief is for each of us. Whatever that sense of loss is for each of us, it's unique to us. And when we're able to open our mind and heart to allow the other person's loss to be validated, it makes a difference in their lives. Now, not only are we spiritual beings having a human experience, we are also energetic beings. When we come together, our energy fields begin to blend together. So right now, we're all this beautiful, wiggling, shimmering energy field. And when we touch each other, then that energy increases exponentially. So I'm going to invite you to take your hands and put them together like this, and really fast pull them apart. And notice what happens in the spaces. Can you feel an emptiness? Some people can and some people can't, and that's okay. But that's very similar when we're used to being in each other's energy fields and suddenly we're not. It's like an emptiness is there. It's like a hole is suddenly present in my energy field. And I have to learn how to live differently because of that hole. And it doesn't have to be the death of somebody. Mindy went away for a couple of days this week, and I was rattling around in that house of ours. It felt like a huge mansion when she's gone. But it felt different. I kept listening for the raising of the garage door to know she's here. She'd come home. But it never happened. So there was a part of me that was just listening. When my dad died, I was living 3 hours away from my mom, but periodically I would go back over there. And the first 3 or 4 times that I was at my mom and dad's house, I'd be in the living room, and there was a part of me thinking, how come my daddy doesn't come and offer me a cup of tea or a glass of water or something to drink? And then it would dawn on me, oh, he can't. He's no longer on this earth plane. So when we experience loss, whether somebody moves, there's a breakup, whether there's a death, there's an emptiness inside us for a while. There's a longing and a yearning for how things could be. And it takes a while for us to move through that energy field so that we can find a way to live in the midst of that. And there are many people who will tell you, oh, just smile and everything would be okay. It's not helpful for me. But there's a lot of things. In breakups, people will say, well, there's plenty of fish in the sea. And those are the hard things to hear when we're in the midst of something. And sometimes the meta messages don't feel what you're feeling. My invitation to you is that when we feel what we're feeling, the anger, the loss, the sadness, the tears, and we let ourselves ride the waves of those energies, then we get to develop a new kind of creativity. Katie Hendricks says it this way: every feeling fully experienced leads directly to unity and God consciousness. So even if I don't like feeling angry, if I'm willing to feel that anger all the way through, then I'm willing to find that flow of unity and God consciousness. If I'm not willing to feel those feelings, I'm kinking my hose. And you guys know what it's like when you kink your hose. And that's true for all the feelings. When I'm willing to expand and ride those waves, then I get to be in my full creativity. Charles Fillmore says it a little differently, but he's basically saying the same thing. I'm now in the presence of pure being and immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. Life, love, and wisdom. Those are the faculties of mind that we talk about. Those are 3 of the 12 that we talk about in unity. Life, love, and wisdom. That life that is flowing through us. The wisdom and the love that combine, where we go inside and we get the inner guidance of how to move forward, how to allow ourselves to move step by step, whether it's a baby step or a giant step, step by step through the process of the emotions, till we can come out on the other side and feel the joy of having had the experience that we once had. Now, Jesus invites us to learn how to mourn. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. In the Gospel of John, we get a model of how to do this. Jesus was good friends with Mary and Martha and Lazarus. Some of you may know the story. Jesus received word that Lazarus was ill. He was out in the countryside, and he got the word, and he waited 2 more days to stay where he was. And then he told his disciples, "Let's go to Bethany." And the disciples were like, "Why would we do that? People there want to stone you in Jerusalem, and Bethany and Jerusalem are only 2 miles apart. People want to stone you. If you go there, you could be killed." And Jesus says, "My friend Lazarus is asleep." And the disciple says, "Oh, if he's asleep, he's going to wake up, no worries." And then Jesus says, "No, you don't get it. Lazarus has died. I'm going to raise him up." And the disciples were even more confused, but they were like, "Well, we'll go with you." So Jesus begins to make his way to Bethany. And on his way, Martha, who's been looking for him, meets him before Mary. And this is their dialogue. Martha says, "Master, if you'd been here, my brother wouldn't have died. Even now, I know that whatever you ask God, he will give you." And Jesus looks at Martha and he says, "Your brother will be raised up." And Martha says, "I know that in the end of time, he'll be raised up in the resurrection at the end of time." And Jesus comes back and he says, "Martha, you don't have to wait for the end." Those are powerful words. You don't have to wait for the end. I am right now, resurrection and life. Will you say that with me? I am right now, resurrection and life. For one who believes in me, even though he or she dies, will live. And everyone who lives, believing in me, does not ultimately die at all. And then he says, "Do you believe this?" The interesting thing, or one of the many interesting things about this, is when Martha and Jesus catch up with Mary at the tomb. Mary says exactly what Martha had said. "Master, if you'd been here, my brother wouldn't have died." Same words. Here's what we know. Jesus already knew he was going to raise Lazarus up. And Jesus is standing at the tomb with Mary and Martha. Mary and Martha are crying, and Jesus weeps with them. Now, Jesus knows he's going to raise Lazarus up, and yet he models mourning. He weeps with his friends at the death of a friend. Even though Jesus knew that Lazarus' spirit will live on, and that he's going to actually raise the body up too, Jesus stands there with Mary and Martha and weeps. He's modeling what he teaches. Those that mourn will be comforted. Now, who does the comforting? We do. We do it with each other. We go to memorial services. We bring food. We hand somebody the tissue box. We're present when they're sad or lonely. We're with them. And that is comfort for some people. When we're together and being with each other, it's comforting in times of stress and times of loneliness. There are many benefits of grieving. When we allow ourselves to go through the process of grieving, not do that thing of trying to avoid it or sidestep it or rise above it or say, "Wow, I'm spiritual, I can do this, I got this." But when we allow ourselves to go through that process of grieving, we find a new center for ourselves, a new center without that person, that animal, that object. That's new to us. We can face the fear of living in the unknown. Because how many times has someone passed in somebody's life and you hear them say, I don't know how I'm going to go on. Happens in breakups. I don't know how I'm going to go on. I don't know who I am anymore. Those are hard questions for us to face at times. One of the benefits of grief is to explore our assumptions about life. What do we believe about life after death? How do we bring our spiritual awareness, our spiritual practice into the process of grief, into the process of that cycle of life and death that happens, part of that humanness of ours? How do we find from our spiritual connection, from that oneness with God and each other, how do we find that will to go on? How do we find that inner strength to take every step and to know that whether we step left or right, we're on the right track? Because God is present with us here in that moment, in this moment and in that moment, in all the moments that we go forth. When we are willing to grieve, we learn to live fully in our potential. There's something about loss that brings out that desire to live in our potential, that desire to make that bucket list and to do something. So what's on your bucket list?
Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu. What's on your bucket list?
Paris.
Paris.
Oh.
Yeah, what else? Africa. Costa Rica. I'm sorry, missed that one? London. Ooh, you guys are going to go some exciting places. I want to see the pictures. Whether it's a big travel or a trip to Starbucks, sometimes that's my bucket list. I want an hour to read the fiction book at Starbucks, sitting outside. Or I want to create the hour to spend time with a friend. I want to get my priorities straight. I want to do the things I want to do rather than keep stepping out and saying, oh, well, next year I'll do that. Oh, well, next year I'll do that. I want to do them now. And that might be to begin the planning of them right now. But at least they're on my awareness. I'm in the creative process. I'm imagining. I'm beginning to create the open space for that to occur. Now I want to share with you what Myrtle Fillmore says about grieving. Myrtle Fillmore is one of the co-founders of Unity. She says, bless the past and the old friendships and turn from them, knowing that they are not the vital issue now. All that another has meant to you has left its imprint on your soul, and I would add to that your heart, so that you profit from him daily. When my grandmother died, I thought, oh, how am I going to live without her? She was a very intricate part of my life. And I knew, AT&T doesn't go there. But in Unity, what I learned to do was sit in meditation, and I could call forth the essence of my grandmother. And there are days when this wafting of perfume comes by, and it's taboo. Some of you will remember that. They don't sell it now. But all of a sudden, I can smell my grandmother. It's like, wow, how cool is that? So sitting in meditation, I can be with my grandmother. And I can remember the joys of calling her up and talking to her. She had a party line, so we had 5-minute conversations. And they were very valuable conversations. And that's true with my dad. It's true with my aunts and uncles who have moved on. Whoever it is for you, that presence of them, the memories, live in our hearts and in our souls. One of the beautiful things about spiritual community is we make a difference in each other's lives. We remind each other of our wholeness when we have forgotten it. We're present for each other in the joys and the hallelujahs, and we're present for each other in the sadnesses. We're able to support and to comfort. We're able to uplift and inspire each other to live in our fullest potential, to live full out. If you're open to this, and this is something you're interested in, I'm going to ask you to say this affirmation with me in just a moment. I choose to live full out. If you're interested, from the deepest place you can bring it from in your body, I choose to live full out. What a beautiful choice to make. As we begin to prepare for meditation, we're going to sing, I forgot the song title.
We let it be. Let the love wash
We let the love wash over us. I'm going to invite you to think of someone that you love. They may be present still in their physical body, and they may not. They may be in your life regularly or intermittently, and they may not. But let yourself see their face. Let yourself know that on your heart and in your soul is the imprint of all that was good about them, that brought forth all that's good about you. That love is infinite. The relationship may change, but the love that is there for us is infinite. And when we are willing to open our hearts and receive that love, it is there for us. For that is one of the promises